In this video, I'm going to give you my thoughts on lossless scaling frame generation now using a 360 Hz QDOLED monitor. This is the MSI MAG 271 QPX. 360 Hz on an OLED. It's just absolutely amazing when it comes to motion. So if I have to sacrifice input lag and some artifacts just to get there to 360 FPS delivered to this display, I think it would be worth it. And let me tell you, I was not expecting this to be so compelling. Now you have to understand, this game I'm playing right here, High on Life. Absolutely love the game, highly recommend it. It is so funny. I've beat this game already. It runs like a dream at 1440p with very high settings, DLSS ultra quality with the transformer model. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I am using the Major Paint the Cactus add-on to reshade for HDR. And it's just an explosion of colors. Game looks amazing. So it already looks and runs absolutely amazing. We're talking about over 200 frames per second. So that is an incredible experience. It feels super responsive with some, mouse and keyboard. It feels amazing already. So we are talking about deciding between 200 FPS plus. Sometimes it goes down to like 160. Worst case scenario. So that's very good already. So a lot of people would say, well, why would you bother with some artifacts and worse latency? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it does, especially after you see how good the motion clarity is if you can get 360 FPS. It's just absolutely amazing. So I would say it is not a better experience, and I bet the majority of people will prefer just over 200 FPS, no frame generation. It is a better experience, but this is a different experience, and if you enjoy motion clarity, you will definitely want to try this once in a while, okay? And I am very impressed with this feature now. With this lossless scaling update, we have adaptive frame generation, and it's just working. I think this is the best case scenario, actually. So I'm getting over 100 frames per second. In many cases, let's say average 100 FPS. And with this adaptive frame generation, I'm going up to 360. So that is my target. And it is impressive. It is very impressive. And I'm gonna show you here. First, let me show you the settings because I think it is very important. I am using MSI Afterburner with RTSS. Very important because this makes a big difference. I go here to setup in RTSS and I select NVIDIA Reflex right here. NVIDIA Reflex. Big difference. The input lag gets greatly improved. And I have also, in case it makes any difference, ultra low latency on the NVIDIA control panel. And I have VSync on the NVIDIA control panel and off on the game. And I think it should be off in lossless scaling too, but I think right now it's at default. So I think I might have to turn it off. But just in case, let's leave it like that because I was testing it like this and it actually works very well. But it might be better to turn it off. So I'll try that next time. Also, I change the maximum frame latency to 1, okay? And I have enabled HDR support, G-Sync. So VRR is on the monitor, G-Sync on my GPU. And I have the draw FPS here so I can see what's going on, okay? I can see the base frame rate. So let's check this out. Right now, 100 FPS, okay? And I'm going up to 360. I can see here the lossless scaling performance, 98 FPS, 359. Okay, so now you might think, why would you go up to 360? You should lower the target so you don't hit, the maximum refresh rate to improve latency. And I tried that. And the problem is, if I keep lowering, and we'll try that, the PC might crash. These drivers from NVIDIA are a mess. I'm getting blue screens again. And I thought I was fixed after I reinstalled Windows. Hopefully we don't get a crash. So let me not play around with it too much. I will. But let me test it before the way it is working right now. So I'm going to show you my mouse here. Let me make sure the camera can see the mouse. Yeah. So you can see the mouse here. So I'm going to move it clearly. Let me get this out of the way. So we go. So you can see here. Let me have it more clear. So you see that the input lag. We're talking about 100 frames almost, 95 FPS. So maybe on the video it looks very, very good. Let me tell you, the input lag is noticeable. It is not 100 FPS input lag. This is a lot worse, okay? I would say this is even below 60 FPS, but just let's say like 55 or 50, something like that. It is not great. It is not great. Maybe I'm being too hard with it. It's good enough. Okay, it's good enough. I mean, I don't have any issues playing the game like this. But the thing is, you might think, well, why would you do this? Because it looks so good in motion. It is just absolutely amazing. Okay, we're talking about 3 milliseconds of persistence equal to 3 pixels of motion blur when moving at 1000 pixels per second, approximately. That's based on the Blur Buster's law. That's very clear. Okay, that's clear in motion, and I love it because when I move the mouse, I can look at, of course, YouTube 60 FPS, so rely on my description. When I move the mouse left to right, I can read everything. I can see everything clear. It is almost as if nothing was moving. Okay, this is like a CRT-like experience. It's just absolutely insane. Of course, CRTs are a little bit better, even at 60 FPS, but this is just amazing. And I can get this experience with full HDR brightness, so this is awesome. So let me move a little bit here. This is the beginning of the game. As I reinstall Windows, I have to load my save data. So as you can see here, 90 FPS. This is a good experience, very, very good. Now, I can see the artifacts. And the motion interpolation artifacts, or this is extrapolation too, like there's a lot of things going on here that I don't understand how this is even working. I think it is setting a target higher and then it's discarding some frames, but I don't know. This is like actually very advanced, this adaptive frame generation. But I can see the defects. So for example, if I look at these details, this geometric detail that is parallel, let me get this out of the way. I can see the artifacts, or maybe that's clipping on the recording. Let's focus on this one here. If I go up and down like this, I can see the artifacts. But if I just do this left to right, I don't see it. So the issue is with these artifacts, if I move up and with this windows, if I move up and down. So I'm just not gonna do that. So I don't see the problem. Of course, the problem is gonna show off during the game, but it's not that bad. I mean, even these shares right here, if I move left to right, I can see the defects here on the share. I mean, it's not a deal breaker, and it's so clear in motion. When I do this left to right, this is just absolutely insane. Absolutely amazing. So it looks beautiful, and it is so consistent, because with this adaptive frame generation, it doesn't matter if my FPS drops even more. I'm always gonna get 360 delivered to the display. So now let's try, because you might think, man, this is not what I would do because I don't want to hit 360. I'm gonna go below that. So let's start doing that. I'm gonna lower this, let's say, 3 frames. The base frame rate now dropped to 90, 91 FPS, 85, 94, 89. So the base frame rate dropped significantly down to like 90 FPS. So let me increase it again up to 60, 360. Let me see now. Now the base frame rate is closer to 100. Right now it is 98. So I do not want to lower the base frame rate because that means worse input lag and more artifacts. That's the problem. So of course, that has to do with the factors that this is using. Maybe in a different scenario, it will be better to lower it. But I want that base frame rate to be as close as possible to 90. So let's say right now I have 85 FPS base frame rate. So I'm gonna lower this a little bit. Let's say lower to 55. It goes down to 77, 71, 67. So my base frame rate is going down to like 70. I don't want that. That's why. So you might think, well, if I keep lowering it, maybe it's gonna get better, and it could. Let's keep lowering it to like 350, 350. It is 69, so it's still 65, 63. Let's keep lowering it to see if it goes up. Let's do 340. 70 FPS, 65, so it's still about the same. Now if I increase it again up to 360, now I'm back up again to closer to 90, 85, 87, 86. So it is better to have a higher base frame rate. So this is something you're gonna have to test depending on the game. But yeah, some people might think ideally you want to have 337 target or something like that. And it is not better because I'm lowering my base frame rate. So I think that's the most important thing for these, just to have the highest base frame rate possible. And this is just working beautifully, man. I can set it to 359, maybe it's gonna be a better target. But this feels very, very good, man. Very good to play. And this is with this mouse, okay? This mouse, this is a gaming mouse, okay? I'm used to, not used to, I mean, I can play better with a mouse, but I prefer to play with the controller because, I like the vibrations and all of that, because you have to understand, I never had a controller before. As a gamer, I come from Cuba. I don't know what's going on with the controller right now. I might have to, let me unplug it and plug it back again. So, I come from Cuba. I didn't have a controller. And I always wanted to play PC games with a controller. So now that I have the chance, I like it. So I don't know what's going on with the controller. This is messed up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Why it's doing that. I'm using DS4 Windows app. Let me see if I can. Okay, now it's working. And it got messed up. All right, let me pause the video, see if I can figure it out. What happened is that this game actually supports a controller. So because I was using the DS4 Windows app, it was conflicting. So now with the controller, which is the way I prefer to play the game, I feel the input lag too. Ta-ta, ta-ta, ta-ta. But the thing is, I can see and enjoy better the motion clarity playing with a controller than playing with a mouse. Because when you play with a mouse, you play like this. Pa, pa, pa. You move too fast. See, so the transitions are super fast. You are not like panning. So with a controller, you're panning the camera like this. And when you do that and you have 360 frames per second on a 360 hertz OLED, it just looks incredible. It looks very, very clear, and you can enjoy that motion. And also, I have to say that they definitely improve the judder, so the jumpiness with a fast camera panning. I mean, with a just regular camera panning, I have to say. So I am impressed, man. Again, this is not a better experience than what I was getting, because I was getting over 200 frames per second. Actually, let me turn this off so you see. Right now, base frame rate is 80. Okay, 80 FPS. Now let's turn this off You see the experience I was getting without it. So I'm gonna turn it off on scale. Boom! 214 frames per second, and now the input lag is just absolutely insane, and the motion clarity is still good. So you have to understand that, look at that, 260 frames per second, just absolutely incredible performance. Now, when playing the game, it goes down to like 160 again, so it goes down significantly when playing the game, but it's still a good experience. But it is not going to be consistent when it comes to the motion clarity, and it's not going to be consistent either when it comes to the input lag. So usually I prefer to cap the FPS to get a consistent experience. Now, if I have a game like this that's running most of the time over 200 FPS and it's just a few areas where it drops, I'm not going to sacrifice the entire game because I know there's an area where the frame rate is gonna drop. So VRR is useful. That's why I would use VRR. But lossless scaling would actually give me a more consistent experience. Yes, with a lot worse input lag and with some artifacts. So the thing is, I don't believe we should, like, there's not one way to play. One day, I'm gonna want to enjoy the input lag, the responsiveness, and the raw, fast performance. But one day, I'm gonna want to see all my FPS delivered on the display so I can see that motion clarity even better. But I can definitely see how this would not make any sense for a lot of people. It would be like, man, why would you ever, why would you get some artifacts? This already looks amazing, just absolutely incredible. And it just feels, this feels brutally fast. It's just brutal. Like when you do this with the mouse, it's just absolutely insane, man. It's just like, why? Why would you ruin this for a little bit better motion clarity that nobody's gonna notice? But the thing is, I do notice that motion clarity. It is visible. But there you go. My point is, I love to have this as a tool. I think this as a tool to try is very good. And if the game is CPU bound, what are you gonna do? If your GPU is sitting at 60% because your CPU cannot give you more frames, which is a situation I might encounter if I get a 5090 with my current CPU. I have a 5800X 3D, which is still very, very good, but the 5090 is crazy powerful. It's more than double the performance of my 3080, and I can already see CPU bound scenarios even on this game, especially with the 360 Hz monitor. So if that's happening, then lossless scaling can give you the rest of the frames. And now we have this custom target that we can also use. So I tried, for example, this fixed target at 2.4 multiplier, and I locked the frame rate to 150 FPS. So 150 multiplied by 2.4, that's 360. And I think this actually works well. But the problem is I cannot get 150 frames per second when I use lossless scaling. As you can see here, I'm getting about 100 FPS. That's why I thought, well, I cannot get 150. Of course I can, we can do this. Pull a calculator. We don't need a calculator for that, but let's use the calculator. You divide the refresh rate of your display, divided by, let's say, 90. In this case, because 90 will be like 6. Yeah, let me do it. I'm making a video, so I cannot even calculate right now. So it will be like 4. So like 4 is too much. But if we do 100, let's do 100, 360 divided by 100. So we divide the refresh rate by the FPS target. That's 3.6. So some people are saying that if you use, for example, here 3.6, you're gonna get the input lag in the artifacts of 4x. So what this is doing is discarding the rest of the frames. So maybe doing 90 by 4 is the same, but let's try the 3.6 just because it's the new thing to have a custom multiplier here. So 3.6. And by the way, for all this testing, I'm using the flow scale in 75, which I can lower, but it is recommended for 1440p 75. So let's use 3.6, and I'm gonna lock the frame rate to 100. So we're gonna use this 100, and then, so right now the FPS is not 100, it's like 85, 86. So, interesting. So if I use 3.6, actually, wait, so 100. Yeah, it's not getting even close to that 3.6. That's not working well. So that's the thing. It takes some trial and error. I'm gonna try 90 and just 4x here. I tried that before. It was not great. Before this update, that is not great. So yeah, it takes some trial and error. But I think definitely the 360 option with adaptive is working. It's working surprisingly well. So this is what I would use. Okay. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions. I think again, it depends on the game. It depends on your PC. How many frames can you get? You know, your display. This could be amazing, for example, to use a strobing, because you have to understand, for LCD monitors with backlight strobing, you want to hit a target. Unless you have the NVIDIA Pulsar, which has VRR with a strobing at the same time. That's the best one when it comes to motion. But let's say you have one of these LCD-based monitors that have a strobing. We have some of those that are great. ULMB 2.0. We have the, forgot the name of these, Zowie monitors with DIAC too. And those are great. You need to hit a specific target for that to work. So the difference in those monitors is absolutely huge. We're not talking about, from 100 FPS to 120. No, we're talking about if you can hit 120, that doesn't look like 120. That looks 4 times better than 120. So a program like this makes a big difference. It makes a lot of sense, and it's definitely worth sacrificing some artifacts and some input lag if you want to see that motion clarity. So I think this frame generation is especially great for strobing. Unfortunately, this monitor doesn't have a strobing, but can you imagine that? I mean, the NVIDIA Pulsar monitor is 360 hertz, and at 360 hertz looks 4 times better. So that is better than a CRT. You definitely want to hit 360 FPS. It looks a lot more clear than this QDOLED. So again, great tool to have. And if you can find that scenario where it shines, it makes a huge difference. And that's why I see a lot of people like it, and some people say, oh no, this is trash. It can definitely be trash and unusable. So it depends on how you use it. It's like how they say the tool is great if you use it the best way. If not, then it might be just absolute garbage. So yeah, let's leave it there. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. Again, this game, High on Life, highly recommended. I mean, this is hilarious. If you want to laugh, I mean, maybe this is not the kind of humor that everyone is gonna love. I'm an American now, but I'm still new to the country. I've been here like 60 years. And because English is not my native language, when I hear people cursing in English, it doesn't cause I am more desensitized, like I am not, it doesn't hurt to me. So I find that funny, and they curse a lot. I don't curse myself in my native language ever. and I don't do it in English either. But it doesn't hurt to me, and I find it funny. And this game is funny. Like, you know, aside from the cursing, this game is very, very funny. I mean, I rarely play games, you know, 2 times, 3 times. I played this one multiple times because it is funny. You know, I laugh about it. I want to hear every single dialogue, everything, because it is just hilarious. So highly recommended. If you haven't played this game, highly recommended. It runs like a dream, especially if you use some optimized settings. These are the settings I'm using, and it runs like a dream. So I just have the shadows down to high, post-processing to medium, and high foliage and mesh quality. DLSS ultra quality with the transformer model swap. At 1440p, just absolutely incredible. It just runs very fast. It looks super sharp. And for HDR, I am using Major Paint the Cactus add-on to reshade and the Advanced Auto HDR shader, which is fine-tuned for this game. Let me get more bigger size here so you can see the settings. Advanced Auto HDR, these are the settings I am using. You can check it out. I'm using the HDR 400 mode on this monitor, but here you can type in the brightness of your display. So all you have to change is just this brightness, the target brightness, depending on your display tone mapping, and pick brightness. So let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if you have any questions.